Sup and welcome back to the Magic Den. It's time for another deck tech video, this time with my Squirrel Commander deck. But this time things are going to be done a little bit differently because Jordan, my arch nemesis from the Magic Den, has challenged me to see whose deck is more valuable. And nobody here in the basement has more disregard for their finances than I do. And I'm going to prove it here today. And if you, Jordan, your deck is more expensive, then I want to see your video after this with your mana box listing. The commander for the deck is Chatterfang, the Squirrel General. He's a 3-mana, 3/3 legendary squirrel warrior with Forest Walk, and if one or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus that many 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens are created instead. So that means if you make a clue, you also make a squirrel. If you make a treasure, you also make a squirrel. If you make a squirrel, you make a squirrel. You're just always making squirrels. And you can pay a black to sacrifice X number of squirrels to target creature and give it plus X minus X until the end of turn. So you could sacrifice a couple squirrels to give something a little bit of an attack boost as long as it doesn't kill it. Or more commonly, you can sacrifice squirrels to give something negative X and kill it. So this is an awesome commander, quite versatile, and the heart and soul of most combos in the deck. Starting off with the lands, we have our swamps, forests, and all of our utility lands. So for basic swamps, we have 2 Infinity foils and 1 Galaxy foil. We have 2 Invasion swamps that I bought off a random dude at a bus stop once, true story. We have 2 of these Codsy Dan swamps. And then we have a Bloomburrow set of the 4 seasons. Love these lands. I don't actually have any in the forests. And then we have an Edge of Eternity's Galaxy foil that somebody pulled in a pack here at the Magic Den one Saturday, and then I bought it off of them for $5. And I think now it's worth like $3. But so in forest, is this a Galaxy? Yes, it is. So we have a Galaxy foil Infinity forest. We have an oil slick forest, which I don't really like because it always looks like a swamp. We have Double Masters forest. This is a Zendikar forest. Another Codsy Dan. I really like the Codsy Dan set. It's definitely one of my favorite land sets of all time. Another Zendikar, and then we have 5 of the horoscope forests. That makes up the basic lands, but we do have our utility lands as well. So this is what's going to give the speed to the deck for sure, is the Verdant Catacombs, 3 Tree City, Woodland Cemetery, Oak Hollow Village, which I don't really like and I might pull, but I kind of liked it when the set came out, but I honestly am finding I'm not really using the counter ability, and the fact that the green only taps for a creature is sometimes a hindrance. Not often, but every time it is, it annoys me. Command Tower, Galaxy Foil, Overgrown Tomb. A little bit harder to tell it's Galaxy Foil in the sleeve, but Tainted Wood, which is definitely something I could upgrade in the future, or on Reef the Vastwood, which I only run because I have a foil copy. I'm also not a huge fan of it because it comes into play tapped, but it is a cool land. Boseiju Who Endures, fantastic land, spot removal for artifacts and enchantments. Can't beat that. Also comes into play untapped too. Tranquil Thicket is a card that I just played a lot when I was like younger, and so I have nostalgic attachment to it, and I found a foil of it, so I'm gonna run that. Plus, it's not a bad land too. It comes into play tapped, but you can cycle it if you already have a bunch of lands to just draw a card. Blooming Marsh, another land that I'll probably upgrade eventually. And the awesome Swarm Yard that has the actual squirrels on it. Favorite Swarm Yard ever. So that makes up the lands. For artifacts, we have just 5, and of course the first one is a staple in Commander decks, the One Ring. And then we've got another Commander staple, Soul Ring. And we've got another Commander staple. No, I'm just kidding. This isn't even a staple for Commander Squirrel decks, but I run it anyway because I love flavor cards like this. This is Chitter Spitter, and I've had this thing get massive before. It's 3 mana. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may sacrifice a token. If you do, put an acorn counter on Chitter Spitter. Squirrels you control get +1/+1 for each acorn counter on Chitter Spitter, and you can also generate tokens with it by paying 1 green and tapping it. So sometimes you just need a token generator, but it can also make your tokens pretty big too. Emerald Medallion is awesome. I have debated cutting this as well because although it reduces the cost of green, which is my predominant color in this deck, I have debated cutting it because it doesn't always reduce costs for me. So I'd like something a little bit more useful. And then, of course, we have this new commander. This was from a promo just recently. I think it was Command Fest, and it's the Arcane Signet with Chatterfang on it. I absolutely love it. It's gorgeous, and that makes up the 5 artifacts in this deck. I don't have a ton of instants in the deck, and of the ones I do, not a lot are removal. But that's mostly because Chatterfang takes care of the removal in the deck. So we've got Cash Grab, mill 4 cards. You may put a permanent card from among the cards milled this way into your hand. If you control the squirrel or return a squirrel, make a food token, which is great when you have Chatterfang out because it's going to make a token. Heroic Intervention, permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn, saves you from a board wipe. Verdant Command, choose 2. I always choose target player gains 3 life and target player creates 2 tapped 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens. Now this generally is going to turn into 4 tokens with Chatterfang. Sometimes you can use this ability to give an opponent 2 squirrels if you need to trigger your Defense of the Heart. I've done that. And I have also countered target loyalty ability of a Planeswalker. I countered an ultimate ability once of a Planeswalker, so that was pretty awesome. Saw in Half is a card I'm running just because I really like the artwork. Now, I know I should be running the squirrel art, but because it doesn't come foil, I've opted for this awesome Galaxy Foil Infinity art. And it's just kind of cool. You can double up. You can use it on your own creatures to get 2 of a creature that you really want. The effect of either a mana dork or something more powerful. Or you can use it to kind of cut something on your opponent's field in half and make it more manageable. Second Harvest, for each token you control, put a token on the battlefield that's a copy of that permanent. So this is going to double up your treasure tokens as well as your creature tokens. And of course, Chatterfang is going to see all the tokens coming into play and make a squirrel for every single one. So this card's usually pretty explosive, but you already have to have a decent amount of tokens before it becomes viable. So I've actually debated cutting this. Sometimes it's in my hand and I don't have enough squirrels on the field to take advantage of it. Vampiric Tutor, one of the staple tutors. It's on the Game Changers list. 1 mana, search your library for a card, put that on top of your library, and you lose 2 life. And then we've got some removal. See, I'm running removal. Assassin's Trophy, destroy target permanent, and it gives them land. And I like it because it's a permanent, and sometimes I need a permanent removal. Chatterfang takes care of creature removal very well, but he does fall short, of course, on permanent removal, so Assassin's Trophy could definitely help with that. But you could probably run a little bit more permanent removal. I'm running 9 enchantments in the deck, and the first one is Parallel Lives. We run a lot of token generation in the deck, so this comes in a lot of handy. It's 4 mana. If an effect would put 1 or more tokens onto the battlefield under your control, it puts twice that many of those tokens onto the battlefield instead. And so if you're going to generate 1 token, Chatterfang's going to see it, generate a second one. Parallel Lives will see both of those and generate 2. So for every token, you're going to generate 4 if you've got Chatterfang out with this. So super awesome to have in the deck. Lignify, 2 mana, enchant creature. Enchant creature is a 0/4 tree folk with no abilities. And this is in here just to put on other commanders and annoy people. Here we have one of the most broken enchantments in the deck. This is the Squirrel Nest. Enchant land. Enchant land has tap. Create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. So this is paired with this card, Earthcraft. For 2 mana, tap an untapped creature you control, untap target basic land. So with this in play, we can take a forest, enchant it with the Squirrel Nest. Now this can be tapped to produce a squirrel token. The Earthcraft is going to allow us to tap the squirrel token to untap a target basic land, which is the one we have equipped or enchanted with Squirrel Nest, which can now be tapped to generate another squirrel token, which can be tapped to untap target basic land. And you can do this a million times, well, infinite amount of times, and you're going to get annihilated because they're all tapped, but you can use cards like Mirkwood Bats combined with Chatterfang to just sacrifice them all, doing infinite damage. So there's a few different ways to do it, Blood Artist and stuff too, but Defense of the Heart is a 4 mana enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent controls 3 or more creatures, sacrifice Defense of the Heart. Search your library for up to 2 creature cards, put those cards onto the battlefield, then shuffle. And you're going to use this for like Pitiless Plunderer or aristocrat cards like Blood Artist and Mirkwood Bat. So when you do generate a bunch of tokens, you can start pinging. This usually gets annihilated though. Bearscape. This is in here for token generation. That's why. It's a 3 mana enchantment. For 2 mana, exile 2 cards from your graveyard, create a 2/2 green bear creature token, which Chatterfang will see and give it a buddy. Grave Pact for 4 mana. This is an awesome card to have. Whenever a creature you control dies, each other player sacrifices a creature. Now, Chatterfang can sacrifice creatures at will, so you can sacrifice your creatures on your opponent's turn to force them to sacrifice a bunch of creatures, which goes around indestructible and things like that. It's always painful, and people generally would like to get rid of that card too. Doubling Season is a 5 mana doubling effect. It's different from Parallel Lives though, because it also does counters as well, which I don't really care about. So it's basically a Parallel Lives that costs me an extra mana. Squirrel Sanctuary is a 1 mana enchantment that when it comes into play, it creates a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. And whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you may pay 1. If you do, you can return this to your hand. I don't really return it to my hand that often, but I do use it for a quick token generation every once in a while. So that's the enchantments. Now this deck is extremely creature heavy because there's a lot of squirrels that I wanted to run, so a lot of them are in here. Some of the more useless ones are not. A Ravenous Squirrel is a 1 mana 1/1 that whenever you sacrifice an artifact or creature, put a 1/1 counter on Ravenous Squirrel. So if you go infinite with Chatterfang, sacking with Pitiless or something, this is also going to get infinitely big. And you can also force sack to get draw a card, but I rarely ever do that. For 2 mana, we can play Osteomancer Adept. It's a 2 mana 2/2 with Death Touch. And until the end of turn, you may cast creature spells from your graveyard by foraging in addition to paying their other costs. If you cast a spell this way, that creature enters with a finality counter on it. So you can use this to get back Pitiless Plunder or some other combo piece like Mirkwood Bats, which for 4 mana, whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life. And you create a lot of tokens as well as treasure tokens, and you're sacking them, so this usually pings faster than something like Zulaport Cutthroat. For 2 mana, whenever Zulaport Cutthroat or another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 and you gain 1. The life gain on this is awesome though, which Mirkwood Bats does not have. Thornvault Forager is a 2 mana 2/2 squirrel mana dork. It taps to add a green, but you can also tap to forage, which if you don't know what forage is, it's removing from play 3 cards from your graveyard. And you can add 2 mana in any combination of colors to your mana pool. So it's a mana dork that can even ramp up 2 colors of any color, which sometimes you need your black. And then for 4 mana, you can search your library for a squirrel card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Lord Skitter, Sewer King. I love this card because it generates a lot of tokens, which Chatterfang sees and generates tokens. It's a 3 mana 3/3 that whenever another rat enters the battlefield under your control, exile up to 1 target card from an opponent's graveyard, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 1/1 black rat creature token with this creature can't block. So creating a bunch of tokens, and it's got some graveyard hate. Valley Rock Caller. This card's awesome. It's a 2 mana 1/3 with Menace, and whenever it attacks, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of other squirrels, bats, lizards, and rats you control. So if you have this out when you do go infinite or blow up a bunch of tokens on the field, you can, attack and just do tons of damage to everybody and get a bunch of life. Squirrel Mob. This card isn't that good anymore, but it's in here for flavor and the artwork is awesome. It's a 3 mana 2/2 that gets +1/+1 for each other squirrel on the battlefield. Deathrite Shaman, 1 mana dork, sort of, which is pretty much in there for that. It's a 1/2 that you can do one of 3 things. You can exile a land card from any graveyard and add a mana of any color to your mana pool. You can pay a black to exile an instant or sorcery to ping for 2 for everybody. And you can pay a green, tap, and you gain 2 life. And you have to sacrifice a creature. Or no, exile target creature. Deranged Hermit is a 5 mana 1/1. This is probably one of my most expensive cards in the deck. It's a 5 mana 1/1 with Echo, so whenever you cast it, you have to pay the cost on the next upkeep, which is annoying as heck. Whenever Deranged Hermit comes into play, put 4 squirrel tokens onto the battlefield, and you can treat them as 1/1 green creatures. All squirrels get +1/+1. So I don't often pay the Echo, but I'll throw this out. Get the 4 tokens, which are doubled into 8. If you've got something like Earthcraft out, then you're going to get that 8 as basically tappable mana right away, so you'll be +3 on mana. It's awesome. Sheoldred the Apocalypse. Bought this off a buddy of mine. I know it has no place in a squirrel deck, but still, it's awesome. It's this pre-release foil. Whenever you draw a card, you gain 2 life. Whenever an opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. It doesn't really belong in the deck, but it's awesome. Camilla the Seed Miser. My buddy pulled this out of a pack too. This was awesome. Awesome day. Other squirrels you control have menace, and it itself has menace. It's a 3-mana 3/3, and whenever you sacrifice one or more foods, create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. For 2 mana, you can forage, put a 1/1 counter on each other squirrel you control. I generally just use this for the mass menace. I don't really do the other abilities that much. Hazel of the Root Bloom is awesome, awesome. It's 4 mana for a 3/5, so the stats, it's already huge for a squirrel, and you can tap to pay 2 life to tap X number of untapped tokens you control and add X mana in any combination of colors. So you're going to get quite a bit of mana if you have the tokens for this. You do have to pay 2 life, but that's a small price to pay. And at the beginning of your end step, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. If it's a squirrel, instead create 2. And if you've got Chatterfang out, again, those are going to be seen and doubled, so you'll be creating 4 every end step. Blood Artist is one of the main pingers. It's a 2 mana 0/1. Whenever this creature or another creature dies, target player loses 1 and you gain 1. So you really do need to be going infinite with this because it is a target, but it's an outlet. An outlet for something like this. Pitiless Plunder, one of the main combos in the deck. This is a 4 mana 1/4. Whenever another creature you control dies, create a color treasured artifact with tap, sacrifice this artifact, and add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Now, this is really important because when one of your squirrels dies, it's going to be generating a treasure token that Chatterfang is going to see and generate a squirrel token. Now, Chatterfang has the pay 1 black mana and sacrifice X squirrels. Target creature gets +X -X until end of turn. So for that 1 treasure token, you can pay it, get a black, sacrifice the token that you just generated, and then it'll generate another treasure token, which will be seen by the Chatterfang, which will bring out another squirrel token. So you can sacrifice the treasure again to generate another squirrel token, and you do that infinite amount of times with something like Blood Artist out, that every time something is dying, it's going to ping. So this is an awesome card. Huge combo outlet, and it'll also ping creatures directly too, because every time you're using Chatterfang's ability, you can -X to a creature, -X 1 to the power or 2, whatever you're sacrificing for squirrels. So while you're also generating infinite sacrifices, you're also destroying creatures on the board. Honored Dray Leader, 3 mana 1/1 Trampler. Whenever Honored Dray Leader enters, put a 1/1 counter on it for each other squirrel and or food you control, and whenever another squirrel or food you control enters, put a 1/1 counter on Honored Dray Leader. This is awesome because it gives you all the 1/1s for the previous ones that are on the field and ones you get in the future, which mostly cards just give you one or the other. All that you already have or all the ones you get in the future. So, and it's got trample too, so it gets pretty big. And if you go infinite, it'll get infinitely big. Prosperous Innkeeper, for 2 mana, it comes into the play, it creates a treasure token, and whenever a creature you control enters, you gain 1 life. So if you do any of the infinites, you'll gain infinite life when this is on the field. Old Gnawbone, I love this card. It's a 7 mana 7/7 dragon. And whenever a creature you control deals damage to a player, create that many treasure tokens. It has to be combat damage. So when you play this, it doesn't have haste, so you won't be attacking with this, but all the squirrels you have on the field will attack, and every single one of them that hits, you'll get a treasure token for it. Arboreal Grazer is great, like early game ramp. It's 1 green mana for a 0/3 reach. When it enters the battlefield, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. Some people hate this card, but it's awesome. Can't hate on that ramp. Yegra, Eater of All. For 5 mana, it has Ward, Sacrifice a Food, which sounds like it would be annoying to pay. However, other creatures are food artifacts in addition to their other types and have 2. Tap, sacrifice it to gain 3. So you can eat your creatures for food. Whenever a food is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put 2 1/1 counters on Yegra, Eater of All. So this is, again, another thing that when you go infinite, this thing's going to get massive. It doesn't have trample, but anytime anything's dying on the board, it's getting +2/+2. So it grows really, really quickly. Nested Shambler is a 1 mana 1/1 that when it dies, create X number of 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens, where X is Nested Shambler's power. So you can actually use the Chatterfang combo to sacrifice a bunch of tokens. If you have 10 tokens out, you sacrifice all of them to give Nested Shambler +10, -10, and it'll die, and it'll create 10 squirrel tokens because it had +10, -10, and those will be doubled. So if Nested Shambler is out on the field, you can double your current tokens for just a single black mana. So it's awesome. Gilded Goose is a 1 mana 0/2 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, create a food token, which of course Chatterfang will see, and create a squirrel. And you can pay 2 to tap and sack a food token to add, or to create a food token, or you can tap this to sacrifice a food and add 1 mana of any color. So if you play this on first turn to generate a food token, on your second turn play a land, tap this to sacrifice your food and your 2 lands, and you can play Chatterfang on second turn. It's a nice early game ramp. Crater Hoof Behemoth. Now this is amazing for when you have a bunch of tokens out because it's an 8 mana with haste, and when it enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain trample and get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. So you have 11 tokens, every creature you control is getting +11/+11. And you generally with this deck can generate 11 tokens no problem, or 11 or more. And so yeah, this is a game ender right here. Hazel Brewmaster. This card has seen some crazy combos as well. This is a 4 mana 3/4 menace. Whenever Hazel's Brewmaster enters or attacks, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard and create a food token. Foods you control have all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Hazel's Brewmaster. So you have to make sure you're exiling something that has an activated ability, but say we exile even just like Gilded Goose as an example. Now all of your foods will tap to sacrifice a food to add a mana, so your foods will tap to sacrifice other foods to create a mana, or you can pay 2 and tap to create a food token with your food. So any activated ability they'll have. And they'll stack too. So if you do another attack on your second turn and remove something, now your all your tokens will have that activated ability as well. Galagreeters, and it's just creatures, unfortunately. But this is a 1/1 for 2 mana. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. You can either create a tapped treasure token, which is always the first one I do, because if you create the tapped treasure token, Chatterfang's going to see it and create a squirrel token, and when that squirrel comes out, it's going to trigger Galagreeters again, so then you can put the 1/1 counter on Galagreeters. And if you get another token in the turn, then you gain 2 life. And generally getting 2 to 3 of these triggers per turn is extremely common with this deck, so you get a lot of value out of your 2 mana. Deep Forested Hermit is the poor man's Deranged Hermit. It is the same mana cost, it is the same attack and defense, it even gives all squirrels you control +1/+1, except instead of Echo, it has Vanishing 3. And when Deep Forested Hermit enters the battlefield, create 4 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens. That ability is the same. The only thing different is the Vanishing has been switched with Echo. Ashnod Flesh Mechanist. This is a card I bought ages ago for 25 cents, and it's like stayed in the deck forever. It's a 1 mana 1/1 Death Touch, and whenever it attacks, you can sacrifice another creature. If you do, create a tapped Power Stone token. So sometimes I do this to sacrifice a squirrel token to get a Power Stone token out, which will generate another squirrel token. So I'll just basically sort of get free Power Stone tokens. And the final creature is Toski, Bearer of Secrets. This is the special guest art of it, and it is absolutely awesome. It is exactly what I would expect a Toski to look like. I actually didn't really like the other artworks, but this one is awesome. The spell can't be countered, and it's indestructible, and whenever Toski attacks, a Toski has to attack each combat if it's able, and whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. And when you're running wide with squirrels, you can generally get a lot in and draw a ton of cards. There's a whole pile of sorceries in the deck, a lot of removal, and tutors mostly. We've got Damnation, 4 mana, destroy all creatures, they can't be regenerated. Toxic Deluge for 3 mana, as an additional cost to cast this, pay X life. All creatures get -X until the end of turn, which this is great because sometimes you can just use it to ping under your Chatterfang to destroy tokens. Season of Gathering. For 6 mana, choose up to 5 paws worth of modes. You may choose the same mode more than once. You can put a 1/1 counter on a creature you control. It gains vigilance and trample until the end of turn. You can pay 2 paws to choose an artifact or enchantment, destroy all permanents of the chosen type, or you can choose 3 paws to draw 3 cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. So often I'll use this either as a board wipe for all artifacts, because I run quite a few enchantments in the deck and not so many artifacts, or I'll put the paws on and then draw cards. You can also draw cards and wipe all artifacts, so It's pretty handy it's pretty versatile for 6 mana. Swarmyard Massacre is a board wipe that I absolutely love. It's 5 mana. Create 2 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens, which are usually doubled with Chatterfang. Then each creature that isn't an insect, rat, spider, or squirrel gets -1/-1 until the end of turn. For each creature you control that's an insect, rat, spider, or squirrel. So if you have 5, generally, if you have even just Chatterfang when you play this, you're going to have 5 out because you're going to generate 2 tokens, which will get doubled. Then you're going to -5/-5, absolutely everything that's not a squirrel. So it's a great one-sided board wipe often. Cultivate. Bring a friend bonus here. The 3 mana search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Reveal those cards, put one onto the battlefield tapped, and then the other into your hand. Always need the mana ramp. We're playing green, so may as well take advantage of that. And then we've got Feed the Swarm. Destroy target creature or enchantment an opponent controls. You lose life equal to the permanent's mana value. So it's a little bit more versatile than just a creature removal, but you do have to pay the life, but small price to pay usually. This is a Diabolic Intent from the Final Fantasy set. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature, which is like always a token. Search your library for any card and put that card into your hand, then shuffle. 2 mana Rampant Growth. Search your library for a basic land card and put it into the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. You always need the mana ramp. Demonic Tutor. 2 mana. Search your library for any card. Put it into your hand. Natural Order. 4 mana. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a green creature. Again, always a token. Search your library for a green creature and put it into the battlefield. Then shuffle. I always get Gnawbone. I always get Old Gnawbone. This is basically a 4 mana search your deck for Old Gnawbone if you sacrifice a token. Tempt with Discovery. I love this card, especially when we play these 8-player pods that absolutely are gong shows. Search your library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield. And it's untapped. Each opponent, and it's any land, that needs to be mentioned too. Any land untapped. Each opponent may search their library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield. For each opponent who does, you may search your library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield. So when you do these 8-player pods, it's super often that all 8 people will search a land. And for 4 mana, you get 8 untapped lands. It's bonkers. But in the normal commander sense too, it's not uncommon that you get 2 to 3 lands back untapped. So you're basically paying 1 land and ramping through. It's ridiculous. If you're running green, you should run this card. Diabolic Tutor. I know this card sucks, but I'm desperate always to get to combos. So 4 mana, search your library for any card, put it into your hand. I'll take it. Grim Tutor. 3 mana, search your library for a card, put it into your hand, pay 3 life. I'll take it. Again, I need all the tutors I can get. Kadama's Reach. 3 mana, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal those cards, put one onto the battlefield tapped, and the other into your hand, then shuffle. Exactly the same as Cultivate, except I guess it's got Arcane. And Chatter of the Squirrel. For 1 mana, you can create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token, and it's got Flashback. There are still some major upgrades that could be done to the deck. The biggest one being getting the Edged Foil Hazel of the Root Bloom. That would be like awesome, but they're like $300, so I haven't had Sean pull one yet, so I don't have one. Squirrel Nest is a 50-cent card in my deck, but I do own a playset of the Odyssey ones, but they're in a 60-card deck, so I'm not switching one out. And there's lots of lands like Yawgmoth, Cradle of Growth, Ancient Tomb, Cavern of Souls. I need those, but I need them foil in the deck, and I would run a foil Tainted Wood over a non-foil of them, so I just haven't got around to them yet. I will eventually do the land base. But yeah, if you like the Squirrel deck, please leave a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. It means the world to us. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.